jumping into another one soon. So hopefully everyone on the main stage is just about sorted out any audio issues they may have had, and then we can get this series going.
This is all dirty ball. That's what this is. Dirty tactics. It's a masterclass of the dark arts from Quadrant boys.
From the French boys.
Trying to ice the friendship.
Ah, yes. Just, oh, I've got an audio issue.
Oh, I can't hear things.
Oh, no, we'll slow
I can
you
only
down.
hear on my right side.
It's clever, though, because I will say, and this is no disrespect to FaZe, they do get very frustrated. They get checked out very easily at times, like just the smallest of things, and those boys will be missing shots, and they'll be getting very, very frustrated. But we'll have to see whether they can keep their cool here in this series.
Well, Frosty is one man that can pop some heads and wobble some wigs. Well, we've got a little clip to show you. Take it away.
But doesn't have a BR for the cleanup.
Collect will be forced to back down, and that flag will get all the way out to long haul. King Nick will chase down SnakeBite, and Spartan with a grenade will stop the flag in its tracks, but Frosty's finding some faces now. Really starting to heat up with the heat wave. He's cooking. Triple kill for the Iceman.
And it might still go on. Yeah! Overkill! We switch over, but Frosty hits it. And that was an AMD power play as well. We've been seeing those throughout the tournament, and well, luckily it was one that we commentated over as well. Just as the observer switches, it was an overkill from Frosty, and that's what this FaZe clan roster is capable of, pulling things like that out of the pocket. And Quadrant need to be careful. Don't allow Frosty to get going.
That observer switch has haunted L-Town since the very day. I remember at the Sunday after party, he was not very happy with himself, but fortunately for him, he's very good at his job and bounced back very quickly.
He did indeed. I think next series he bounced back. Probably that series he bounced back, because we appreciate everything L-Town does when it comes to observing and making sure he is keeping on top of everything.
Yeah, and again, our attention turned towards FaZe and Quadrant. We can keep building this up in this stronghold. Dan, we need Quadrant to see. We need to see a good, fit and firing Quadrant here, because if they start slow here, if they lose game one, that could be unthinkable. It's exactly what we've seen against Shopify Rebellion. They lost game one and then went on to get clean swept. So they need more than ever to win this game.
Yeah, I think what's frustrating sometimes for Quadrant and Quadrant fans is there's always that we know, or Quadrant fans know that they can get into the top 3. They know they can get into the top 4. They know they can compete against the likes of FaZe Clan, against the likes of TchiK, but then all it takes is one map not going their way, and I spoke about FaZe getting checked out. I guess you could say the same about Quadrant. They can very easily get down on themselves a little bit and maybe get frustrated themselves. So this first game is everything, because you got to imagine for Quadrant, they're going into this saying, well, it's Stronghold's Li-Fi, we've never lost this should be easy. And then they lose it, and then suddenly they're thinking, okay, well, if we can't win our best game type, how are we going to win this series? On the flip side, you've got FaZe, who have put in a lot of time at practicing Stronghold, saying, all right, we put in so much time, surely we finally beat them on it. If they then lose it, they could be the ones that let their head drop. So this is one of the most important map ones that we might have here on main stage today.
And for many people, this Quadrant team are a real dark horse. They're a wild card, and many people have pipped them that they can go on here and win a championship. So, but previously, top 3 was the highest they've ever gotten, but people still whispering, talking about a championship reign for these boys. Yeah,
I think that Quadrant, I mean, they're a roster that have been a long talked about. This was a year in the planning. I think that there was a few contract permission things that weren't quite there for this team to form back in the day, and that's why we had Ascend and we had Quadrant, but then we get the combination of the two and the best European roster that has ever been fielded for Europe, and I believe that they are a team that can really put on a show for us here at the World Championships. But FaZe know how good they are, and I think that's what's important in this series as well. FaZe, do not underestimate Quadrant. FaZe have seen what Quadrant can do against other teams. FaZe have played enough against Quadrant, so there's not going to be a slow start here for FaZe where they're like, we can kick back, we can chill, this is just an easy series. FaZe know they have to be locked in to compete against this team.
Speaking about the Quadrant boys and how they've combined this master roster, do you reckon there was an interrogation tactic, a negotiation tactic where Lando Norris would stick them in the back of a car, and whenever they're asking for more money, he just whipped them around Silverstone at top speed?
I mean, there's definitely methods. Something has to have happened when they went and got top 3, right? That was, something had to have been done. It was a Lando Norris masterclass. I mean, he's been doing similar things on the F1 track as well. It's been a great year, not only for Lando Norris, but Quadrant all the same, as the organization keeps to rising. New merch, by the way, available. Quadrant putting on new merch for us, love that. Although the boys, where's the lime green? I will say, is it chilly in here? I don't know, I've got a jacket on, but not even the jerseys for the boys.
Maybe it's the championship greens, they wear them on Sunday now instead. Starting traditions.
That's wise, and I think it might be needed just to have a few superstitions here if you want to take down a FaZe Clan roster who should be focused and ready to go, because you've got to look at what happened last event. FaZe Clan, 4th place. That's not where they would have expected to be or wanted to be, and they will be looking to make a statement as they come into the Halo World Championships to show why they are the best team in the world, or one of the best teams. Now, as we restart Strongholds on live fire, FaZe are going to need 226 points, whereas, of course, we are going to see Quadrant needing the entire 250. Let's get it going.
We're underway. Game 1. Quadrant v FaZe, which could very easily be the one that tops the pool. The winner of this one could very easily go on and top this pool and have a very favorable bracket from here on out. Such is the significance of winning this single series. Renegade in a 1v1 against Lqgend. And it's the Demon who reigns supreme here now. Overshield pops up, and TchiK has it in his chest as he pops away up towards Cuts.
And the individual skill of these teams has been mentioned, and something that SLG does excel in is his sniping ability, and he does have a sniper rifle ready, waiting, lurking in the shadows, but the battle rifle can do the damage as well. It's FaZe that are scoring, but it's Quadrant who are getting the kills, quite the opposite of the stats.
SLG, recognized positionally, he's not in the best of places. As Royal 2 tries to get away out towards the scoreboard, and SLG is there. He had a peek, but couldn't find the pixels. Royal 2 does show himself, but only into the crosshairs with the sniper rifle. Kills now favoring Quadrant. 3 dead for FaZe. And that hot start they had before the restart, that lead they had, is almost completely gone.
But notice how SLG didn't jump into the C stronghold there. He was more than happy to just take place on tower just in case there was any spawns over towards dummy. But then as soon as they see the spawns over towards scoreboard and A, that's when they then make sure that C is in their control. Very calculated, their movement around the map, Quadrant, and you can learn a lot by how they play. Again, they know there's going to be a push over towards B, so SLG says, I will grab A. We will just go where the players are not.
Working so far, A and C in control. SLG has the information, and one player at least down to no shields over towards C. That kill has now been cleaned up. And Frosty's the last man standing on the map. As he fights over towards B, Quadrant continue to hold A and C, continue to score. And SLG can continue to rain down terror with this sniper rifle in a 1v1 against Royal 2. But it's the Canadian who wins out this time.
A couple of shots that really could have made a difference there for SLG, but just can't quite connect. It did allow Sica to get control of the overshield, but that's very quickly deleted off of his Spartan. And FaZe just wrestled back a little bit of control as they take C, but just as Quadrant noticed, even with only a couple players on the map, they will instantly throw themselves into B, and this is what we were talking about. Even if the Slays may be going in favor, or feel like they're going in favor of FaZe, it's the thought process from Quadrant and the way they're moving around the map that often wins them Strongholds games.
2 down for FaZe. Full complement of players for Quadrant. Standing, ready to fight, guns up. Renegade tries to slip away under the cover of the scoreboard. SLG's fighting elsewhere. SnakeBite's got one, Royal 2 another. Sica's last man standing for Quadrant. Has to give up the hill, and Renegade will pop back around the corner to ensure that kill will not get away. B for FaZe. A very quickly in their control as well, and they can continue to score. Confirmation, FaZe need 226, Quadrant need the full 250.
It was a good period for Quadrant, but FaZe being able to wrestle it back now means they can focus on trying to put a string of points together as well, especially now with Frosty with a sniper. We had our AMD power play. Is he going to be able to put on another little montage piece for us here as Quadrant just slow things down ever so slightly, but SLG cannot avoid the sniper rifle of Frosty this time.
Frosty trying to land the body shots. Got a melee. Royal 2 on hand. Take down TchiK. B and C now in possession of FaZe as they now wait for the overshield to pop up, recognizing how big that could be, and scoring even more points. Happy to sacrifice B for now to ensure they claim the overshield and get themselves right back into this game. Quadrant happy to take the points on offer as they get a couple of kills, and perhaps Renegade has a lot of burden on his shoulders now with the heat wave and overshield combination. Good for one. As he immediately surveys the land, gets close to B, trying to clear it out, but there's no members of Quadrant positioned there. They simply left and ran away.
Well, Quadrant were in control, but it's a great push from FaZe, so it seems like a good time to jump into the comms and see how they are trying to pick apart this Quadrant team.
Sica's weak. He's challenged me door. He's like half. He's really weak on mid.
I can play for him.
Yo, I'm gonna end it, bro.
Outside, please.
Yeah, nice man. I'm coming off
Yo,
the garage.
1%, 1%.
Yo, pillars on me.
One A, one it. Sick, one it, and two.
We give B.
He's one at left wing. He's one at left wing.
Look.
Left wing, one
He's
dead.
dead. Nice,
They're gonna be up C fast.
John, I saw us. Nothing. I'm trying to fight garage here.
Okay. A plus one summit.
W's are weak. Yeah, they're trying to go see. I see one turn. He's one shot, PJ.
See, I hear.
I'll come, PJ.
Nest coming, nest. Somewhere, bud.
Another nest.
There's one B, one nest.
I killed one A. Nice press. Yo, last guy, the last guy mine. He's going elbow to C.
Yeah, good play.
We should go B.
John, you go fast.
You have 20. Yeah, you guys beat him. Yeah,
I'm gonna go.
One at top mid, one at two van weak, and one at mid.
Red on it. He hit A. He waved 5 guys. Kill the bottom guy. I can't wait. Yeah. OB in 15 as well. You're kidding me about mid? Yeah, he wave's gonna be up now. He was up now. I think he went keto. One of us. Look at us. With heat wave.
Help me, John.
OB in 10 as well. Running to me.
One OB as well, one OB.
Dummy door.
Come on,
One OB. One in OB.
One shot.
No, I killed him. I'll get us. I'm capping A too.
Snipe
Can we start building one squares? Yeah. Brad, yeah, John, I'm getting a sniper out. I'm going B with you. B with you.
Two.
I'm gonna die. You better try and clap 2. 2B. Snipe down.
Yeah, I heard. I'm gonna be going left again.
Snipe down pillars.
Heard.
Back B. Yes, snipe.
John, I have you.
Two back B.
I have you any right. Two on OB.
Sniping back B. Can you kill us? Kill us.
He's one hit on OB. One hit on OB.
Nice.
He was on my body. He
had snipe at B somewhere.
John, you have a shot as well. Keep it
Come back, John. Alright, bro.
I'm shooting on him. One shot.
Give me a second.
One shot dice. Nice.
Wow, the pace of the game there really reflected in the comms from FaZe. Very fast when Quadrant were darting around, taking the fights, but as soon as they slowed down a little bit, FaZe also took that chance just to take a breather. But Quadrant's still ahead, even with the slight restart lead that FaZe have. But we now see FaZe finally take control in terms of the slaying ability. Right at the start of the game, Quadrant were dominating the slays, but FaZe have got right back into it.
Very closely contested game. We expected nothing more.
Enemy team score.
Quadrant desperately need to win this game. They try and control B. Lqgend sitting in there, but it's being contested for now. SLG tries to desperately stay alive under bridge. Royal 2 ensures that will not be a possibility. It's now Sica and TchiK in C. Overshield in 20. Royal 2 still has 2 snipe shots to play with and a smoke screen to help his team out in securing that overshield. As he now turns towards scoreboard, Sica oversteps his marking. Royal 2 using the shroud screen to cover and isolate the fight. He gets a trade in the end. Overshield will pop up now, and Frosty looks to be the one on hand to pick it up.
Just look how annoying Quadrant are being, like just little cockroaches just getting through the gaps and just stealing that stronghold away from you when you think you've got control, and it's so difficult for FaZe to manage. Again, A and B being taken, but that's a big shot from Frosty. Was secured, but Frosty can now try and wrestle it back if he can take this fight against TchiK.
TchiK waited behind the pillar to do as maximum damage as he could. Overshield's completely gone now. B for FaZe, as is A. They continue to score again. Closing in. Again, remember, they have a 24-point advantage from the initial start. So this game just about tied up, but it's FaZe who have a slender lead.
FaZe with a slender lead, but again, A and B being taken both by Quadrant. And they're going to suddenly flip the map on its head. As soon as FaZe moved over to C, that was when Quadrant made their move. But A is being contested once more. That's where the big fight's happening at the moment. But Sica, he's saying, well, if the fight's happening at A, that probably means we can take C. So we'll just go through and we'll take C. It'll be fine.
Said when I make my move, and it really brought me to say he's going to sacrifice himself. Sica top middle might be about to sacrifice himself down bottom middle. Plasma pistol picked up.
Enemy team
He looks towards scoreboard. Nothing doing. Royal 2 will be there in a moment, it would seem. Heatwave in the hand. Plasma pistol won't connect, and the Heatwave player will survive. 2 dead for Quadrant. 2 dead for FaZe. Royal 2 tries to line up TchiK, but the Frenchman just about avoids the clean fade. Frosty down to no shields, make it no life. Renegade gets one. These two teams trading kills back and forth. It's 61 kills in favor of FaZe to 55. They have the Slayer's advantage. They just need to convert it into some more points.
Well, FaZe move over to B, and you know where Quadrant are going to be? They're at A, but this is good from FaZe. You need to make sure, okay, expect where Quadrant are going to be. They're going to be going towards A, so then we instantly have to flip C. Outplay Quadrant at their game. Either move faster than them or set traps for them. If you're expecting them to be there, hide round a corner, be there for the back smack, but somehow SLG gets the kill there, and that could really help out Quadrant trying to get back into this game, because they do find themselves about 30 points behind now. It's another overshield in favor of FaZe. That's something that has gone well for FaZe here, is their overshield control.
SnakeBite still has some overshield to play with. Trying to control A. As he steps out now towards B, expecting a point of contention. 3 dead. SnakeBite is the last man standing. Lqgend's going to try and make this as difficult kill as he can, but SnakeBite has the repulsor and sends him straight into a frag grenade. A is almost completely converted. TchiK puts the final touches on that. Very little to separate these two as we head towards the end game.
This is what you have to be careful of, though, here on Live Fire Strongholds, is not getting caught down by the middle for too long, because then you're leaving the rest of the team at a 3v4 disadvantage. But FaZe, sometimes even when their player's down, they're still able to get the job done. Frosty, the last remaining player, and he just tries to do the extra damage onto SLG to stop B being secured there, and unfortunately has to back down from the fight. Quadrant now starting to close that gap some more, but great patience from Frosty. He knew full well there was going to be that potential rotation.
Frosty is locked in and lasered right now. You can tell he's listening to every single piece of information that comes his way. An unofficial triple kill for him. So much damage put down. Quadrant need to put him in some chains because he is popping off right now.
Quadrant being outslayed by 10, but they're only down by about 30 in terms of the objective. This is what we expected. Two very different ideologies from these teams, two very different approaches, but FaZe may be starting to suss out how Quadrant are moving around the map a little bit more now. But again, B is flooded from Quadrant. They're still being a nuisance. They're still threatening FaZe as 4 go down. And again, it's a chance now for Quadrant to get a triple cap and really start to eat away at this scoreboard.
Overshield's popping up at a very good time for Quadrant 2. They've sent some resources that way, trying to prioritize C. They might bite off more than they can chew. SLG has the overshield. He turns his attentions towards Renegade, who tries to stay alive and make himself a difficult kill. SLG still has a little bit of overshield to play with. He's going to use it to take down Royal 2. 3 dead for FaZe.
This is where Quadrant get very terrifying, when they have that trip cap, when they can start to push the advantage and press the spawns, as now A will be wrestled back. C is where the spawns are for FaZe, but Quadrant closing in on 250. FaZe have to stop this bleeding.
Quadrant have them right where they need them. SnakeBite down to no shields, catch the body shot. But they've got a player with a little bit of a backstab. Frosty has got the world in his shoulders here to stop this game. A, B, and C in Quadrant's control. FaZe have little to no mistakes left in the chamber.
But they do get 3 kills, 3 are dead. Lqgend can't compete for B or C, so they have to give up control. FaZe wrestle it back. Remember, FaZe have a 24-point lead from the start of this game, so they only need 226 here. This game is pretty much tied between the two. Quadrant, who have never lost this mapping mode all season, and FaZe, who have a poor record, but are starting to show why they put in the practice, why they have made sure they put in the research.
This game's so delicately poised. Royal 2 down to no shields. SnakeBite tries to get away. And it's Quadrant who have control once more. They need 30. And FaZe need about 21. So little to separate them. Overshield's about to pop up once more as Sica gets a kill. And they're looking to sacrifice the overshield and trying to secure the points instead.
Yeah, that's a big fight at A. There is one by Quadrant as SLG gets the kill onto Frosty. Now Lqgend turns his attention onto C. And now they're only 18 points away as well, but FaZe are able to just wrestle him away. This overshield could have an impact, but it's whether either of these teams decide just to ignore it and try and just hold out for the points.
This overshield could tip the balance in either team's favor. But will FaZe just run out of time by the time they get their hands on it? But hold on a second. FaZe are threatening to get a triple cap. They've got A, they've got C. They've got members over towards B and do Quadrant. Frosty steps in and Royal 2's got the overshield.
This could be the backstab of all backstabs. Big fight, but there's 2 players from Quadrant waiting. B is taken though from FaZe as now they have the chance to try and win this game. 2 go down for Quadrant. Royal 2 still over towards Tower. Still being a nuisance, still trying to send players flying as now C will be taken here.
SLG's flying without wings. Off the map he goes. B and C now in control. Quadrant have one last push. TchiK's down to no shields. 6 points. Make it 4. Is there anybody from Quadrant in there to get into a hill? SLG tries to go. He's unsuccessful. FaZe win game 1.
And FaZe do what they set out to achieve coming into this tournament. And it was to finally get a Strongholds victory over Quadrant. And that impressive record on Strongholds live fire, we finally turn a 0 into a 1 for Quadrant. But that is going to be a frustrating loss because they could taste the victory here, but FaZe, they get the job done and show why they have that championship mentality.
Quadrant's best game mode. They take the L. And much like the last event, they found themselves on the receiving end of a 3-0. Are we about to see that here once more? Or do they have what it takes to battle back against the adversity?
And you know full well that means a lot to the FaZe roster as well. They're a team who like to make sure they've been able to win in every way possible. If they feel like there's something they've not achieved, they want to gain it. They want to finally take that W over another team. And that's going to do a world of good for their confidence. As we look back towards the end of the game then, Quadrant, they were so close, they were 6 points off. But Royal 2, he took the gamble, he went for the overshield, he distracted 2 members of Quadrant for the meantime, which allowed FaZe to then capture B. And not only did they capture it, but then Royal 2 was able to take the fight over towards Tower, capture C, and Quadrant were on the back foot off spawn, just dashing over towards B, and they weren't able to stop it.
Royal 2 picking up that overshield has completely changed that game. That one play tipped the balance in their favor.
And that's going to be frustrating for Quadrant, and we spoke about it before the series started. Are we going to see the heads drop? Now they lose one of their best maps and modes, but you saw a little bit of acceleration there from the FaZe boys. It did mean a lot. They wanted to get that one over them. Very close though on the score, 250 to 245, but FaZe find themselves 1 up in the series.
Up next then, Slayer on Streets. And Dan, I know you've got something for me.
It's an average game type for both, 6 and 4 across the year for FaZe, 5 and 5 for Quadrant. We've seen some big losses for the likes of Quadrant and even Ascend when they were that roster back in the day on Slayer Streets. It almost seems like a nightmare map for them with some of the losses they've had on it. You'd have to favor FaZe with how they've controlled kind of power-ups throughout that game. You'd expect them to be a little bit more aware of rockets and how to present themselves towards them, but I still feel like Quadrant, in the speed of which they can move around the map, they can definitely make this difficult for FaZe.
Looking at the body language on the stage, Lqgend looked a little bit dejected after losing that game, and you know why, Dan. When you're 4 or 5 points away, one play could be the difference maker. And having a look at the game mode records, FaZe Clan on top when it comes to Slayer. That's not good news for the boys in green, the Quadrant lads.
All the good news for Optic, for example, can be bad news for them. They're in green as well, but yeah, FaZe have been our best slaying performer team throughout the season. And in Oddball, they're also in 2nd as well as King of the Hill, so the maps and modes that are coming up, certainly the actual mode will lend towards FaZe. But that is a big loss for Quadrant, and suddenly the unbeatable team on Strongholds has now taken 2 losses. And we'll have to see whether other teams in the tournament can start to do a little bit of the same. But now we go into Slayer on Streets. Quadrant will look to try and move around the map quickly and stay on top of FaZe, but FaZe will want to control this map. Make sure those rockets are theirs. Make sure that they get held of the Bulldogs so that they can't allow any quick movements from Quadrant. This could be very fast-paced if it's Quadrant who gets to dictate it.
Looking at the head-to-heads between Royal 2 and TchiK. In that picture, you can see TchiK pointing at his watch. But it's time to show up here in Game 2. As SLG scoops up the rockets, the Bulldog's been dropped over towards Pink. It looks like it's going to be in control of FaZe. This is perfect for Quadrant. The kill lead and the rockets to boot.
You can see SLG hesitant to just fire random rockets as he fires a random rocket. There was thought process behind that one. Second one connects though. Just an early lead for Quadrant, tied up by FaZe. Are they able to get any sort of control off of this rocket play? Doesn't look like it, especially when you see Stalker Rifle and Bulldog now available for Royal 2. That's probably the worst player you want to see these guns in the hands of, because we know how impressive Royal 2 has been all season with his slaying ability.
Royal 2 about to start blasting. All tied up. Two members of Quadrant positioned over towards the shotgun side. Another two towards bottom tower. Royal 2's happy to stay planted where he is. Towards Ivy. Taking out the no shield. Smoke screen will go down. That will block his vision. He has to overextend just a touch. How about a teammate? Double kill for FaZe. Royal 2 and SnakeBite combined. Long time teammates. Must be near a decade these two are playing together.
But this is where I think Quadrant have matured a bit as a team, as players. Off spawn, they didn't throw themselves at FaZe. They took a second to think about how they wanted to approach, how they wanted to methodically walk across the map and try and get that opening pick. And they did get it against FaZe, but power weapons are a very big thing here on Streets, and a Stalker Rifle is definitely one of them. And unfortunately for Quadrant, the amount of damage output that the Stalker Rifle has, they weren't able really to wrestle the positions off of FaZe. So they want that to be out of ammo, and it will be soon, but speaking of power weapons, here comes the rockets.
Beautiful grenade, banked from TchiK, spins up just to back SnakeBite away, and perhaps that was to push him off the rockets, but somehow the rockets are on a porch. Assuming some sort of combat evolved was used.
I mean, that was a next day delivery if I've ever seen one. SnakeBite more than happy to scoop that off his step. And now he's got to put him to use. 2-kill lead for FaZe. Again, hesitant to fire. You also don't want to put yourself in a vulnerable position where maybe you can get backsmacked or only fire one rocket before you give a kill away. Because then you also hand those rockets to your opposition. So I said it might be a fast-paced game if Quadrant dictated the pace, but it is not Quadrant dictating it. It's very much FaZe slowing this game down. Probably frustrating Quadrant a bit.
Happy to play this one patiently. SnakeBite's looking for guaranteed kills with the rockets. He gets two. 2 for 2. Efficient with the boom barrels. And Royal 2 will now just wait for the Stalker Rifle once more. He actually has it in his back pocket. Excuse me. As TchiK, recognizing his teammate has fallen, has to back away. Doesn't have to help. Teammates spawning over towards red. And FaZe are a little bit split here.
And this means that FaZe will have the timing on the Stalker Rifle as well as soon as he fires that last bullet. Gets it back on the spawn of the weapon pad. And they can take advantage of it. This is very tactical from FaZe. Quadrant might not even know when that is going to be up, so they're going to have to just try and play for Tram every now and then to get a little bit of an indication on that weapon pad. But Renegade, trying to stay alive, cannot do so. Still very close, 19 to 18.
SLG was a little bit overzealous, running up the middle of the street. Paid for it with his life. SnakeBite's back tower. Royal 2 is in PD. SnakeBite's very close to calling 911, looking for some support here. Will get it from Royal 2 with a back smack onto TchiK, and SLG will answer back elsewhere. Lqgend down bottom middle. Renegade has yet another set of rockets for the FaZe boys. Power weapon control has been one-way traffic so far, as well as the power-ups in the last game.
Rockets turn into Bulldog. Power to power. But again, you saw Lqgend very quickly trying to dart around to get behind enemy lines. That's where Quadrant have to be careful here, because FaZe are pretty wise to flanks. They've always got a BDI waiting, because they know Quadrant are a team who like to go and push for it. Renegade putting the Bulldog to use, but SLG shuts him down, but probably gets cleaned up here by Royal 2 if he can find him, which he does.
Is that what you need to spot out flanks, is a BDI?
A BDI can really help you spot anything out, actually, in life. But this game is maybe a little bit too close for comfort for FaZe. They would have liked to have a bit more of a lead considering the amount of rockets they've been able to pick up. Quadrant have done impressively well to keep this so close.
On a knife's edge, game slows down. Both teams recognize what's at stake, particularly Quadrant, who do not want to find themselves 2 down in the series. Every play they think about making, they'll analyze, overanalyze, trying to ensure they make as little mistakes as possible. Renegade will get 1 though. SLG has been picked over towards the stairs. Renegade could very quickly turn this into 2. Stalker Rifle putting down so much damage. As Royal 2 backs away. Bulldog is whipped out. He gets close though. Does Lqgend. Sica's there though. Spares blushes. Still has got Stalker Rifle to play with. Still has Bulldog too. But he's lost his teammate. Probably has to give up this position. Fighting just a little bit too long. Guilty of almost overstaying his welcome.
But again, Lqgend staying alive, so important. He's able to just maneuver his way around the map to just avoid those last final shots because he's got some very powerful weapons in his hand. There's the first. Renegade will get taken down by Sica, and now Quadrant take the lead just at the right time because Rocket's also in the hands of TchiK. Things are looking up for the boys in green.
Quadrant have made so many fans over the last few months. Maybe converted some Optic fans as well along the way. There's no doubt they'll be rooting for Quadrant here. 3-kill advantage then to the Europeans. As TchiK gets close to the pink street. Eyes on Frosty. As a matter of fact, eyes on 3 members of FaZe. That information will be passed over. Renegade goes back PD, getting shots, getting hassled and harried by TchiK, who continues to apply pressure. 3 dead. SnakeBite in a 1v1 will get a kill to lock it down. All 4 dead for Quadrant.
But FaZe find themselves 2 behind. 5 minutes still on the clock, so I don't think the timer is going to really play too much of a factor here. Plenty of time still for both teams to slow things down where they would like to. Lqgend managed to connect with a shot on the SnakeBite. 3-kill lead now. And FaZe just need to be careful they don't allow Quadrant to get too much of a lead, but Renegade just on swap mode. Cleans up 2, but can't get any further than that.
Using the Bandit, we'll be seeing a lot more of that next year. Frosty then. Waiting for the Bulldog, but he's got SLG behind him. No doubt he's heard the shot at his back. Frosty desperately tries to get away, but positionally he was in a bad spot. That Bulldog has popped up, and it's in the hands of the Frenchman SLG. Turns his attention towards Renegade now, who's down to no shields, as is SLG, who tried to get 2 with the Bulldog, but now Frosty needs to put that weapon to use. They're going to eat away at this lead.
Such good nades though from Renegade, but not only that, the follow-up from Frosty. Renegade ensured that he was screaming that call out. It had to be cleaned up. You can't allow SLG to get away there. Rocket's coming up. TchiK is ahead of them. Lqgend gets spotted out. TchiK will pick them out, but SnakeBite is there with the Stalker Rifle, but it's good pressure from Quadrant. It's whether they can get hold of these Rockets though. They're in a vulnerable position, but Lqgend puts his body on the line and will fire 2 of them. It's a 47-43 lead.
Rockets fired out of desperation from Lqgend, just to ensure they don't pass hands. He manages to get 1. Stalker Rifle from Sica to pick up 2. And all of a sudden, Quadrant need 1 to tie up this series. 2 members of FaZe isolated towards PD. Frosty trying to do as much damage as he can. Royal 2 is in big trouble. And Quadrant tie up the series.
How important could that be for Quadrant's chances in this series? Slayer Streets, which has so often been their demise, they're able to just wrestle back some control in the late game. I don't think FaZe took advantage enough of the rocket control they had, the Stalker Rifle control they had, and Quadrant were able to punish them when they finally got held of some of those power weapons. And now that means that we're definitely going to see a Game 4. And as we looked at that series layout and you were saying, like, is there maps and modes that favor either of these teams? I think that Quadrant will be delighted that they are at least guaranteed to go to 4 here. 17 kills for Lqgend. We cannot stress enough what an amazing player this young man is and how integral and how important he is to this Quadrant side.
Well, sometimes people are speaking about how against the top 3, he suffered and he struggled. Against FaZe in that game too, he took over the game. Wes called for him to take over the series. If Quadrant are going to stand a chance, they need more performances like that from him. Yeah,
they need Lqgend to be the superstar, right? And that's okay. You want to encourage that. If you are a teammate of Lqgend, you say, look, you pick him up. You are the superstar. You are the guy who can do that. You make sure he's feeling at his very best. Give him a foot rub if you have to. Give him whatever he needs to be playing at top level.
Take a look at the highlights then. We spoke about those Rockets, Dan. FaZe picked up a couple, 2 unanswered actually, but never really built on it. They got the kills, but never seized the map. As a result, they left the door open for Quadrant to sneak on in and claim victory.
And once Quadrant did have control at the end of this game, they continued to be aggressive. I think that was maybe the difference. FaZe were ahead and they slowed the game down. They allowed Quadrant to come to them, but when Quadrant had the lead, they were pushing their advantages. They were getting in the face of FaZe, and they find themselves winning it by 5. And that means we're set up for map number 3, which is on full recharge.
Game 1 separated by 5 points. Game 2 by 5 kills. Quadrant are in this series. And they're not just here to to take part. They're here to win the whole damn thing. We spoke about Legend's body language after game 1. Looking a little bit downbeat. Game 2, he's won. He looks the exact same. Maybe that's just his face. That's his resting face.
And you can see the stat difference between before Worlds, these stats, excuse me, and Legend. He really has come along from one tournament to another, making sure that he improves time and time again. And his KD might not have been that great at one tournament, but he improves it going into the next. And he is a player who will always be analyzing his own gameplay to ensure that he improves from one to the other.
It just goes to show you this season, pretty positive, but when he plays against FaZe, for whatever reason, he's not able to cope with the goods. He comes a little bit unstuck, but with more games like that Game 2 Slayer, those stats will be getting a hefty bump all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I think that's always going to happen when you look at overall stats compared to a stat against a certain team, because FaZe have really been able to get the number over Quadrant. And if you consider the fact that Quadrant have lost every time to FaZe, those stats still aren't that bad. Like, he's still just under 1, which means he was still getting those slays, he was still performing well. And Legend is that X factor for Quadrant, but you need the 3 players behind him for him to be able to excel in certain areas. You need the cover, you need someone putting down the sniper control, for example, from SLG, or the assist that might be coming through from Sica, or running hand in hand with TchiK, who can also put down those Slayer numbers too.
Game 3 then, on the horizon, oddball recharge. Dan, we speak about how important these games are, and you told me that from here on out, it looks pretty good for FaZe.
It does. I mean, oddball recharge, typically, we have seen FaZe perform well. That both these teams haven't played much of this mapping mode throughout this season. One of the tournaments we didn't have recharge, for example, so it's always going to be a little bit lower. But both have a relatively average win rate. This was kind of a coin flip when I'm looking at this series layout between the two. As was Slayer Streets. The big one for me was Stronghold's live fire. With that being won by FaZe, it suddenly tips the series layout heavily in their favor. But I thought that they would have had momentum off the back of that. That now being stemmed by Quadrant in the Slayer Streets, you then start to lean towards oddball recharge, maybe going in favor of Quadrant. But it is a slower mapping mode. It is about control. It's about setting up. Typically, FaZe are a better setting up team than Quadrant. This series continues to swing back and forth like a pendulum. Like you say, with structure being the name of the game when it comes to oddball and recharge. The funny thing is, not for long ago, we spoke about and criticized this FaZe Clan's oddball recharge because they were not particularly very good at it. And that was something they went in the off-season, they worked on, they grinded away, they got the reps in to change that complexion. And now they're here and we're talking about how it being somewhat of their favorite game type. And when I think of objective players and objective modes, I think oddball is the objective mode because you have to take yourself out of the game to be able to get that objective. All you can do is just be a spotter. You can look and you can try and notice what's going to happen. Of course, you can drop the ball and slay, but then you are not securing the objective. FaZe have more objectively minded players than Quadrant. There is more players on that team that I would say, yeah, I think they know how to play the objective a bit better. And that's somewhere where maybe Quadrant can improve on as they progress in their careers. That someone who knows just that right time when to move the ball around the map, like we've seen SnakeBite do historically. Even though they do it very well, when it's crunch time, when you're against one of the best teams in the world, are you brave enough to get your hands on that ball and move it when you need to?
Kickoff on game 3 then. Oddball recharge could very well decide which way this series shakes out. Frosty's got camo. Sica's fallen. Legend's on bat ledge. He won't be long to this world either. Renegade ensures Legend's taken care of. Tucked him to sleep. It's night time. TchiK over towards the whirlpool. Will back Frosty away. Experienced was the decision just to back away, knowing how important this camouflage, can be. As he gets close and makes a meal of the first kill, but Royal 2 is there to spare his blushes. As he dips and doodles, ducks and dives, Frosty will get one onto TchiK. A ball in the hands of FaZe, and they've got almost an ideal setup here in pipes.
I think what is surprising as well, when you look across the board for Quadrant, it usually was Legend in Fort Worth who was getting the ball control. On average, had 69 points across the tournament, and I think if your main Slayer is the guy that's holding the ball more often than not, then that might be an issue at times, as FaZe have a lot of control here. 2 members have gone down from Quadrant. Renegade just trying to stay alive. Such difficult fight sometimes at Elevator, but SLG navigates it well.
SLG good, take the shields off Royal 2. Ultimately, that'll make him fall. SnakeBite's got hands on ball once more as he begins to juggle it. Might get done for traveling if he doesn't bounce it too much. Lqgend trying to make this a really difficult fight is Frosty. Somehow gets a trade when he really shouldn't have. TchiK's got hands on ball now in towards pipes. And it's for Royal 2 and the rest of the FaZe clan boys to break this setup now. Another trade comes, 2 members down for Quadrant.
Notice the weapons that Royal 2 will pick up when he's getting aggressive and in the face. He sometimes puts that battle rifle away and will find something a little bit more automatic to get very aggressive and ensure that you get the damage done so you can at least rip the shields off of your opponent so that then your follow-up can guarantee that kill. Or, of course, you can get that melee trade.
Second successive camouflage for FaZe. SnakeBite no doubt will want to hand this one over if he can. So he can be an influence elsewhere, getting information. Ball down, pass to a teammate then. And he can begin a little reconnaissance mission. Trying to spot out some players. First victim is Lqgend.
Enemy has the ball.
Taken care of. Sica's the next. In the sights of the Snake. Camouflage has dissipated. 2 kills were good enough to keep control of the ball. 63 and climbing out of sight.
Yeah, this is firmly in the control of FaZe. They constantly have the weapons to stay ahead as well. And with the camouflage you saw on the screen for SnakeBite, he was looking at his teammates' POVs more than his own, just to try and assess that situation. Where should he be going? Should he be holding on to the ball? Almost a 70-point lead. FaZe shouldn't throw this one away. Quadrant, even though they are a fantastic team at breaking setups, you'd imagine that FaZe will be given yet again another opportunity at some point to set up, and all it takes is one mini setup and they'll have this round in the bag.
A lot of hard work's paid off so far for FaZe. Quadrant have not really been able to piece anything together. And when they've threatened to, it's been cut apart just like this. TchiK tries to get the ball, tries to set up. SnakeBite's there with a backstab, being a pest. He soars towards the ball once more. Sica tried to play it, he was unsuccessful, but he manages to win the 1v1. Throws a denial grenade down towards the pipes entrance. And tosses the ball towards batteries, but is this just delaying the inevitable right now?
And if Quadrant can get a solid setup, they can get a big chunk here, but FaZe aren't allowing it. You saw the grapple play from SnakeBite, making sure that they get in the face of Quadrant, maybe learning from their previous game where they perhaps allowed Quadrant a little bit too much space to roam. Lqgend does have that ball. As I mentioned, he was the guy who held the ball most in Fort Worth for this team. Sometimes it's okay with your main slayer holding the ball, because what do main slayers like to do? They like to drop the ball and they like to slay. So you will see them helping out with damage every now and then.
Ball dropped. Enemy has the ball.
Sometimes you're tasked with taking care of Baby. Baby's nice and snug here. As SLG, unaware of that player on top catwalk, Royal 2 steps in. Ball's been dropped. Renegade and SnakeBite pick up a couple. All 4 dead for Quadrant. You spoke about a mini setup being good enough. This could be it right now.
I want to play from Royal 2 as well, just patiently sitting on catwalk. Ooh, picked his time perfectly as Renegade picks the face of SLG. Just should try and stay alive here. Keep yourselves healthy as a team and you can win this right here, right now in this round.
Just over 10 seconds required then. Renegade looks to line up one more. The Demon's putting crosshairs on people, just can't find the faces just yet. Taking the shields away. TchiK's trying to get close to the ball, but SnakeBite expertly rotates it away. Round 1 goes to FaZe.
What did I say? SnakeBite, objective, get that ball in his hands. He knows how to move around the map. 76 points for him. And that's maybe what Quadrant are just missing, that little extra flair when it comes to objective play and someone who's prepared to put their life on the line. But FaZe, it was about their setups as well. Often the shock rifle was in their control. Renegade had it, as he will go to pick it up yet again in this round. And the shock rifle makes such a difference on recharge, especially if you've got it in someone's hands who can hit good shots.
So far in round 1, Frosty and Renegade have been given a sick note at work to say that they can't handle the ball right now. As you can see, that mantle's been taken on by Royal 2 and SnakeBite with 76 and 24 respectfully. Renegade instead tasked to use the shock rifle and create some openings for his team. SnakeBite's got ball once more as he flies by towards pipes. Renegade's tasked now with providing some cover fire, but he's managed to let one leak through. And as a result, Lqgend and TchiK have broken the setup. SnakeBite recognizes this, has to play the ball, dies on batteries, but again, happy to give up his life for the objective.
Yeah, it's just a masterclass from SnakeBite when it comes to objective play, but now this is Quadrant's chance. Shock rifle's in their hands and in the right hands of Lqgend as he connects with the first. Only tickles with the second, but they are starting to score. But this is now where we get to see FaZe and how impressive they can be at breaking setups.
Trade in pipes. Still on board with Lqgend. So he tries to find a pick. Got help from a teammate. Royal 2 and Renegade in pipes. One grenade could do a lot of damage, but it appears as though the Quadrant boys all out of them. They'll have to nip the target if they can. Scoop up a couple. SLG's got ball though. As he heads towards long haul, SnakeBite's trying to cut him off at the pass, stopping him to get to the blue. Instead, he opts to use glass instead and become a little bit of a ping merchant.
And I think what some people forget as well with oddball holders is you can really bait other teams with your movement, with your positioning. You can encourage teams to get aggressive in certain areas, which will allow your teammates to pick up easy kills at times because they'll be caught off guard a little bit. Very easy just to beeline towards that ball when you're starting to lose a lot of points, but Royal 2 with the camouflage just manages to sneak into the presence of these Quadrant players as now FaZe yet again are scoring.
Cloak of Invisibility still has a bit of battery in. They are solar powered, so they don't last long. Royal 2 with Needler. There's a light up the back as those needles rip the spine of Sica. Lqgend could be about to fall as well. Desperately tries to get away and does for now. As he hides on that lip, TchiK's there to help his teammate. Lqgend will re-engage. Beautiful bait and switch.
Lqgend's movement it's fantastic. We saw the same on Streets. His ability to survive and then re-engage sometimes will just keep Quadrant alive in certain scenarios. And that must be so frustrating for FaZe, but Renegade gets a double. SLG trades one out. This is a much closer round, but 3 have just fallen for Quadrant. FaZe are outslaying Quadrant by 12 at the moment. And in oddball, it's very difficult. It's not like Strongholds. If you are being outslayed heavily, it's difficult to win a game just based off objective play.
4 seconds separate these two teams. It's Frosty, with the help of the shock rifle and the haymaker to the jaw, will handle business. 2 dead, make it 3, excuse me. Quadrant have to try and break this setup once more. It's this time. Ball goes towards elevator instead. Pipe setup given up. They recognize Quadrant have 2 members over there. Frosty all this time just keeping them at bay. Suppression fire goes down as TchiK and Lqgend look to re-engage from batteries and indeed Whirlpool. Here comes the pain. Royal 2 lights them up, keeping Frosty alive with the shock rifle. Finally he goes down with very little ammunition to play with. But look how many seconds they've managed to garner from that. SnakeBite over towards blue with the option to play ball if needs so.
And I feel like this is what FaZe needed. They needed SnakeBite to return to this form. He was the main slayer for them at one of the tournaments, but we know how impressive SnakeBite can be when he gets into his objective mind and allows the rest of the roster just to kind of focus on their own game. Even though SnakeBite can step up, can be that slayer, by him taking that pressure off the rest of the team, it almost just gives them that freedom to breathe and to play at their very best.
Well, Wes spoke about how, in his mind, he's the best player in the game. And I think when you talk about commendations and how he was the main slayer in one tournament, he's picked up every single commendation, I think, except with the exception of best supporting player.
And best coach, hasn't had that one yet.
He will get that at some point, no doubt. Right now, he's still very much in his prime. But as we were wagging our chins, Quadrant just about take the lead. TchiK was pivotal in that, essential kills with this shock rifle. Ball has been played. They have a slender lead of 8 seconds with 2 minutes and 30 on the clock. There's still a lot of work to do here for Quadrant.
Frosty somehow still alive, eventually gets shut down. Again, it's about avoiding those bullets, just as Lqgend was doing earlier. The longer you can stay alive, the longer you can keep your enemies distracted and allow your teammates to get into a position, it can really help you win not just an engagement, but it could be the setup that you need to win this round. Ball still on its spot, and at the moment, Quadrant are more than happy for it to stay there. They still have an 8-point lead here. But as they get a couple of slays, that's when they start to get into a position to start scoring once more.
You spoke about Lqgend having on average 69 points. He has got ball in his hands once more. 10 seconds required then to tie up this game. Series already tied at 1-1. Ops now to stay alive. Frosty soars in, bottom elevator 3, make it 4 dead for FaZe Clan. TchiK's got hands on ball once more. and we could very quickly be going to a tied oddball game. And we are. TchiK secures the ball and secures the round.
And I wonder whether FaZe are going to feel like they let that one slip through their fingers a little bit. They had it. And over towards blue. As soon as that went off the map, Quadrant then wrestled back control and got the setup of dreams to find themselves all tied up. This could be massive if Quadrant can take the lead in this series. I wonder whether we'd start to see FaZe get a little bit dejected if they were to drop this one, especially after such an impressive round one where they had so much control and where they were outslaying Quadrant by so much. But now, Quadrant are starting to sneak back into the slays. They were being outslayed by 12, now they're only being outslayed by 6. And they're having far more control, far more freedom to roam around the map.
Lqgend gets close, gets a trade. He had camouflage, perhaps would have wanted a little bit more of an influence on the game with that. Settled for a trade instead. SLG then, he is now tasked with being the difference maker. Up pretty far in the map then. He gets over towards bottom elevator. Frosty will get a couple of shots. A SnakeBite backs away. Renegade has hands on ball. He's in pipes. FaZe have a setup once more.
Enemy has the ball.
It's often a gold setup for FaZe. That's when they seem most comfortable.
Ball dropped.
And Quadrant have struggled at times to break it. It's very difficult to get into pipes because you can just be naded as you try and approach from Turbine. Even going out towards batteries, with the bat ledge position, you can just quickly engage, re-engage, get out of fights. SnakeBite is putting on a clinic again, 15-point lead now for FaZe.
So impressive. SnakeBite has 150 seconds of ball time. He could not shoot his gun for 150 seconds, but still only trailed some of his teammates by 2 or 3 kills.
He's a very important figure on the map right now. And Quadrant, maybe they know it. Ideally, you want to keep SnakeBite away from that ball. You don't want to allow him to be able to play that objective. Camo's up in 8. Ball back on its spot now. FaZe have lost 3. Royal 2, though, as the last remaining player. He can be sneaky sometimes, and he can make a big difference if he catches out SLG. Maybe he could smell him from there, as SLG does spot Renegade going towards the Camo. And Renegade should at least be able to burn it here.
Reminder to everybody inside the convention center, do apply deodorant. Particularly if you don't want the FaZe clan sniffing you out just like that. Renegade with camouflage. Quadrant set up so heavily, invested so many resources in securing it, at least baiting it. But it's Renegade who has it in his chest. But it is Quadrant who have ball. 2 dead though. Ball will have to be played here. As Renegade's camo dissipates. As he heads towards pipes, he just misses that jump. No worries though. Maybe some worries 2 of his teammates have fallen.
He could have thrust, clamber, Gandhi hopped in Halo 5, but unfortunately cannot do so in Halo Infinite. Has to just go the long way. But maybe it's worked out for him.
I do miss the auto-stabilize, I'll be honest. Loved it.
Of course you do. It was a crutch for you.
It really was.
Make a jump yourself.
It really was. Renegade in hot pursuit though on the Sica, down to no shields. Could be about to turn 2, and is. That's 3 dead for a moment for Quadrant. SnakeBite tosses the ball towards Renegade, happily scoops it up and accepts that Amazon order. Back towards blue then. Option to play the ball, a safety net there. Insurance policy, if you will. As they continue to score points for Royal 2 then, over towards batteries. FaZe are very separated here. And as a result, they played the ball.
Frosty, last remaining player, though, has the shock, and that will stop Quadrant from being able to get any sort of setup here. That's not the first time that a last remaining player from FaZe has been able to really make a difference. And even though Halo Infinite is far more team-focused than the likes of Halo 5, you can still have that individual moment to just set yourself aside from the rest. As now, again, Frosty thought he was going to rip the head of Lqgend, but Lqgend knows he needs to shut him down.
Frosty making this a really difficult kill, manages to get the player down to no shields as well. As Renegade picks up back-to-back camouflages now. But they've got to start making Quadrant pay for all the power-ups they're scooping up. They don't have a significant lead.
Yeah, because you're going to remember, FaZe, they were up in the previous round, but Quadrant were able to wrestle it back and get that better setup. And they have demonstrated, Quadrant, that this isn't going to be an easy round for FaZe. FaZe have to secure the ideal setup for themselves. Pipes is usually their target, and now with that kill, they should be able to start to set up here. Renegade just needs to make sure he's aware of any long haul push.
FaZe currently outslaying Quadrant by 11. as they now have a little bit more of a healthy lead. They require 50 more points to secure the game and take the series lead. Two members of Quadrant positioned over towards glass. Renegade has the needler, but they probably need to trust in the battle rifle. He doesn't do so, and he will fall. A SnakeBite, like a matador, tries to bait them in, but Quadrant are no bulls. They're hunting in a pack. Frosty gets one. 3 dead though for FaZe.
Again though, last remaining player from FaZe does get a kill, but this time Quadrant have made their push and kept ball control in a difficult position for FaZe to quickly push off of spawn. And in fact, off of spawn, they're going to be pressured here. Good aggression from Sica to ensure he cleaned that one up, but I love this as well. When you've taken a little bit of damage, rotate that ball around, make sure everyone is playing their part, use your health to your advantage when it's available.
Sica still holds the bottom elevator, completely unaware that Royal 2 would leak through, as Frosty sets off a remote detonation as well. Renegade, excuse me, is
cousin of Renegade.
Renegade, that's Lqgend and Renegade combined. What a player that would be. Shock rifle though was good for the assist, but right now Lqgend's not able to find the faces. 1 second game.
Wow. That was incredible from FaZe. They used the nades to force Lqgend over towards long haul side while someone pushed long haul so that he was guaranteed to be taken down by either the nades or the BR bullets. That's a great closing of the gap from FaZe to make sure you take out a player who is very important on the map.
It's another camouflage for FaZe. This time, it's Frosty. Needs to be the difference maker. 1 back smack secured. But now his position is given up. Has he managed to land that plasma grenade? No, he hasn't. Sica has the shock rifle.
Sica with the shock, but Renegade gets the kill and can get maybe a shock as a reward, but can't quite find it. Ball has been grabbed though by Lqgend. Quadrant now take the lead. 42 seconds left on the clock, and that clock can very much make a difference soon. Quadrant are going to hold the ball as long as they can, and they'll play it when they're under pressure. And now the ball goes back onto the spot. FaZe now have to make a move, but 3 go down. Royal 2's waiting, and FaZe will get control of the ball.
It's an 8-second game with 30 on the clock. Ball's in a little bit of a precarious position. Frosty knows he has to get a touch on it. He's been backed away in blue pipes though. So there's 2 members of Quadrant ensuring he can't get there. 15 seconds remain. TchiK's just baiting it to his left. Frosty has got to clear his corners. They've managed to get 1 pick. Will it be enough though with 10 seconds remaining? Ball's been picked up, but not for long. TchiK baited it expertly. Sica has to try and survive. But oh no! Frosty's got hands on ball once more. Can he hold it? 3 dead for Quadrant. They've managed to get themselves within 1 second. Ball has been dropped. FaZe will win the on-ball.
And they steal it at the death. FaZe up all around the crowd. Right from underneath Quadrant's nose, tried as they might to watch over that ball by the middle. And that one is going to sting. You're going to need plenty of water because it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Quadrant know full well that game was theirs. They had it, but they just couldn't quite hold it for those extra 2 seconds. And Frosty, so patient. He was back down to bottom blue for quite some time. He was out of the game, but he knew he was going to be the one that had to get that touch on the ball. So he bided his time, he watched his teammates get the slays, and then he was there at the right place at the right time to ensure he picked it up.
It's so strange. You can see 30 seconds on the clock and almost panic, be a little bit frantic in emotions. And like you say, Frosty's cold with it. He waits patiently for his moment. That opening was created by SnakeBite and co. And in he scoops, pick up the ball and secure the win. What a game of oddball. What a series we have right now.
And similarly to when we watched TchiK on the main stage earlier, those are the kind of games that set aside a championship winning team from a team that might finish top 4, top 3. You have to be clutch in those final moments, and clutch is what FaZe have been so many times throughout this season. And perhaps if we had to criticize Quadrant in one of the areas, it would be that clutch factor. Sometimes they do let those games just slip through a little bit, but they are so close. If you had asked Quadrant right at the start of the season, hey, how do you feel about being at the World Championship at the end of the year and you are only just losing to FaZe Clan, I think they would have bit your hand off.
I think SLG would say no, honestly. He feels like his team's good enough to win the thing. Looking at the leading Slayers, Royal 2 with a 1.61 and a 1.19 for Sica. King of the Hill stats at HCS Fort Worth, where Quadrant fell to top 6. That was their second successive one. But you spoke about the clutch factor, Dan. Royal 2 has it. Frosty has it. In those final moments, in that stronghold, it was Royal 2 who made the difference. In the oddball, it was Frosty. And unfortunately, time and time again, it's Quadrant to find themselves at the receiving end of a loss at these situations.
There was just a few moments where there's that extra little bit of a thought process from one of the FaZe members when, for example, Royal 2 was hiding on the catwalk, and you are out of the game for a good 10 seconds if you are prepared to crouch there, but you just know that if you wait, if you are patient, the kill will come to you. If he had been 2 seconds more impatient and pushed around the corner, he faces 2 players there and he dies. Instead, by being that extra little bit patient, he gets 2 kills, and that allows FaZe to break a setup and frustrate Quadrant.
And even to say, if he pushes out there, all of a sudden, he's no longer a factor, and Quadrant don't have to worry about him. The fact that he bides his time, Quadrant know exactly where he's positioned. They have to continue to worry about him in those final seconds as the game crunches on. But all of a sudden, we're thrusting ourselves to Game 4, Solitude, King of the Hill. Dan, tell me something.
It's a better mapping mode for FaZe than it is for Quadrant. FaZe have played it a few more times than Quadrant have in tournament play, but Solitude, I still think there's a question mark on it. I still don't think anyone's really nailed it down as well as they could have. So I think this is still open for either team to try and wrestle this one. But if I had to lean towards either side, it's got to be FaZe now with the momentum, and maybe Quadrant being a little bit dejected after that game.
I've added Game 5 to my basket. I'm really hoping that I accept hope and dreams as payment. Frosty's got snipe. Royal 2's got a kill. It's numbers advantage for now in FaZe's favor. And they have the glass set up, which is exactly what they need to ensure their hill player takes minimal damage on the push. Kills continue to fall in favor of FaZe. And is it fair to say that perhaps those 2 losses, Games 1 and 3, have just taken the wind out of the sails of Quadrant now?
Yeah, you want glass control, you want light rifle control, because there is more cover in top middle from those players who are over towards the snipe side and pushing down blue ramp, for example. You're a little bit more vulnerable when you push down out of light rifle. So Frosty, that's why he's positioned on this side, but now he's got to just push a little bit away to try and take these fights. Grenade doesn't quite connect with SLG, and Quadrant now will be able to get the kill finally onto Frosty. So at least they break the setup, but that's a good amount of time scored from FaZe in this first hill.
Frosty with a net 2 kills, but so much damage put down. Sometimes the stats don't simplify or don't explain just how pivotal that could be. Double kill though for Lqgend as he falls. It's FaZe who have about 40% of the initial hill. But we have seen, Dance, time after time, the team that wins this hill can sometimes begin to look at just winning 1 or 2 more hills and closing out the game.
It's a very tough hill to get as well, and sometimes it can take a long time. There's a lot of game clock that is eaten away at during this first hill, but it might go quicker than we expect with how FaZe have been playing so far. They've done very well at holding glass control. QT not quite popped, so it is going to be available for someone to use. One of the main advantages of the QT on this mapping mode is just being able to position yourself in the hill with it, dive out, and then you can return to it after you've gained your shields.
Frosty scooped up Repulsor on his scavenge mission. Member of Quadrant S1, TchiK, will put a little bit more damage down and ensure Frosty will not go into his next gunfight with full shields. Lqgend ensures he's no longer a factor on the map. SLG over towards light rifle. Quadrant are trying to hold loop, they're trying to hold blue, but they can't get a man in the hill right now.
Yeah, this is a better fight back from Quadrant. SLG is the player who's been trying to get into that hill a little bit more than his teammates. But even he's only able to sprinkle his toes in for a short while as FaZe regain control yet again. Lqgend takes the fight but loses to Renegade, who quickly zips back with the QT. And again, we're seeing the advantage of that QT being used. Being able to get out of dodge after taking the initial damage, and now FaZe are close to finishing this first hill.
Taking a look at the stats, we do head towards the first hill's completion. Sica's having a little bit of a slower start by his high standards. Yet to register a kill, 0, 5, and 8. Has had 5 gun engagements that have resulted in a kill. You know that's in his head. He wants to get off this. Maybe get himself more towards a breadstick than a donut. He soars out towards blue. Melee will go down, but yet another death registered. He just needs to slow it down and wait for the kills to come to him.
Yeah, you'd like to think at this point in your career you're not too worried about getting off that goose egg that early on, but we know full well the mindset of some of these players. It's always going to be there and present. Quadrant now trying to get a little bit more aggressive because they know if they give up just one more slither, it's going to be first point to FaZe as Frosty rips Lqgend's face off.
Frosty's icing up once more. Sniper rifle finds a home again. And FaZe now can take their time in securing this first hill. They take the lead. And they're very close to taking the series. As we now move towards driveway, SLG 1v1 against Frosty, and the Iceman comes out on top again.
This is quite the spree from Frosty. Putting together all the pieces to be at his very best, whether it's the repulsor, whether it's the snipe. It's being a massive pain in the backside to Quadrant, but he eventually gets shut down. And now FaZe have the chance to step in the hill. This is one of those hills that is very difficult to sometimes stay in because of the spawns that happens over towards TchiK, the grenades that can arrive from Yard. But Quadrant look like they might have an opportunity here with 3 dead to get some good time.
Frosty's over towards Loop, as is SnakeBite. You know Quadrant are going to try and spawn them over towards S1. But right now, SnakeBite and Frosty will go down. Royal 2's in a 1v1. Lqgend's firing down some long distance shots. Has to give it up, does Royal 2, and move towards Blue. Frosty's there too. Will these two combine to clear out Tram? Yard's the point of contention. Sica desperately trying to survive. Unable to do so, as SLG tries to scrap as much time as he can, waiting for the cavalry to arrive.
And this is such an important hill for Quadrant as well, because look at that clock down at the bottom. If Quadrant lose this, they are done. They're not getting back into this series. They'll be down 2-0 with not enough time to even think about trying to get back into this game. So FaZe know if they can secure this one, they'll be all but guaranteed a victory in this series. But Quadrant are close, and they are wrestling for that hill. They are throwing their bodies on the line to try and secure this second one.
Quadrant knocking at the door. So close. And they will tie us up. And kills are going in their favor again as SnakeBite desperately tries to get the trade, and does. But now the hill moves once more. As we head the dip. And Sica will dip away to Blue just to control the spawns. He knows how important it is to hold this spot.
But this is also where you need players who are prepared to die for the cause. Get in that hill, know full well that you might only get 10 seconds on the board, but your life will be the cost of it. And Sica, who has been struggling a little bit in this game, you mentioned he's 4-12 at the moment. He's not really replicating the stats of his teammates. If I'm him, I'm thinking, all right, well, maybe the objective is my play here, and that's exactly the thought process through his head right now.
Sometimes it's just not your turn to get the kills. You have to get the objective instead. As he moves towards goal ledge. Royal 2, though, turns and gets a trade when he really shouldn't do. And when kills like that go against you, your confidence takes a massive hit.
Yeah, you saw a shake of the head from Sica. He's not quite feeling it in this game. 24 seconds left on the clock, by the way. There will be overtime, of course, but it means most likely we finish on this hill, as it will be next hill wins at that point. Frosty takes a bullet from SLG. He's trying to supply some cover now for the team. And Quadrant, they are ahead at the moment in this hill, but they haven't really been able to get as much as they would have liked.
SLG pops the quantum translocator and gets Frosty. And perhaps they're happy to wait for the timer to tick down. Renegade's isolated on garbage truck. SLG repositions. Will look towards SnakeBite, gets him, triple kill as he hunts for the overkill, but he's nowhere in sight.
FaZe do not show, but that's good because that means TchiK can eat away at these points. We are into overtime, by the way, so it is next point wins, next hill wins. SLG, QT's out of the way, out of dodge, and still Quadrant are scoring here, and FaZe need to up the ante a little bit. They cannot allow too much time here for Quadrant.
FaZe have control of Blue. That could be pivotal now, as they will continue to spawn there until they're uprooted. SnakeBite's in dip, and you can see all 4 members of FaZe positioned close to the hill. Quadrant have got to fight tooth and nail for this.
They need to make a plan here to try and take that blue control back, or they just have to be throwing themselves at this hill, and it looks like maybe it's the latter. QT's back up. Frosty trying to take a position at top goal, but Lqgend is still sat in this hill. FaZe have to get him out.
Frosty starts to peek then. Down onto Prius he goes. Frosty falls. 2 members fall for FaZe, as do Quadrant. It's a 2v2 on the map, and Quadrant need just a sliver, and TchiK secures it. We're going to a game 5.
And it was all in that second hill. Quadrant, they threw everything at it. They knew how important it was. King of the Hill Solitude, it can just come down to those fine margins. We only got to play 3 hills there. Well, that can be the difference maker. And even though we saw the first hill, sometimes the most difficult hill, going in favor of FaZe, Quadrant did not allow it to phase them. And they made sure that they solidified that second. And then the third was a bit scrappy, but it was Lqgend who was able to get a lot of hill time at one point. And when you've got a player that impressive, individually skilled, holding that hill, you know it's going to be a tough fight for whoever pushes it.
We called for ice. Quadrant found it. They went to the freezer. They secured the bag. And now we look at damage. Sica had a slow game in comparison to the rest of his team. SLG with that sniper rifle, registering over 5k, as did Renegade. But SLG, with the pressure on his shoulders, he made the difference for his team.
Also, hats off to Sica, because when you are 0 in 10, 0 in 11, or what it was at some point, so easy to kind of get checked out, not play well. He's probably wiping a bit of sweat off his brow right now, saying, thank God we won, because otherwise I might have been blamed. But there was a period where Sica was marauding around the map, forcing the spawns in his team's favor. He was blocking spawns. He was making sure he was dipping his toe in the hill. He was playing the objective. He was playing the support. So credit to Sica for doing that. But as we look at the final stages of overtime here between these two teams, unfortunately for FaZe, even though they had that blue control, Quadrant were happy to just throw themselves in the hill and say, look, you've got to come to us. You've got to take an angle where we can bank nades, and you are going to be vulnerable in those areas.
So little to separate these two. I mean, game 1, we're talking about 5 seconds of Stronghold's time. Game 2, 5 kills in the Slayer. This series could be already done for either side. But we're now pushed to a game 5. And for Quadrant, they were always called, this series was a mismatch. They didn't have it in them to beat the FaZe, to beat the SSG. They're now just 1 Slayer away.
They've not done it yet. The only top 3 team that they've been able to topple in LAN is Optic Gaming. Can they add FaZe to that checklist? Granted, it is full play, but this would be the biggest confidence builder Quadrant could ever ask for in this tournament. Not only would they be able to finally take down another team in that top 3, but the likelihood is they would be going through this pool in first place. Although, we have seen in previous tournaments, that's not always a good thing. But right now, Quadrant just need to focus on the matter that is at hand, and that is trying to do the unthinkable and take down FaZe.
Slayer live fire will be game 5. Dan, this is the part where you tell me that this now favors Quadrant. Come on, I need to hear it.
I don't think I can quite do that for you. Unfortunately, you already saw the stats earlier. FaZe are our best Slayer team in the league. They are 12-3 when it comes to Slayer live fire, whereas Quadrant are 7-4. It's not a bad game type for Quadrant, by all means, but it has been a better Slayer for FaZe. And one of the things we've always credited FaZe for is their ice, their clutch potential in those game 5. We've seen FaZe win so many, but on the flip side, we've also seen Quadrant do a similar thing against Optic Gaming, those game 5 Slayers where they've been able to take them down, but they cannot and have not done it ever against FaZe Clan on LAN. Is that going to change? We've already seen Quadrant lose their unbeaten record on Strongholds. FaZe had never done that before. But now can Quadrant get one up over FaZe and do the unthinkable and take them down in a best of 5?
These two are like heavyweights, standing in the middle of the ring, trading blow for blow, map for map. Game 5 now to separate these two. Almost like a penalty shootout to see who will potentially top the pool.
It's an early lead though for FaZe. 2 big kills. Make it 3, but Lqgend using the map to his advantage. And again, he's able to somehow slither away, wriggles through any little nook and cranny he can find. And that is so frustrating as an opposition to see kills like that get away.
Not only does he survive, the attentions of FaZe were distracted for so long. The rest of the members of Quadrant could spawn back up and secure the overshield. 3 members positioned over towards tower. Sica's going hunting with the heat wave, but he's being tagged up from left, right, and center. 3 members of FaZe, look at him. Wow. And 3 members combined to take him down.
That's a tough one for Sica. He was in position to potentially pick up 2 or 3 kills, but he got spot out by the one player who wasn't at tower. And they can be sometimes the game-defining moments. Because Quadrant could have been up by 4 or 5 here, but instead they find themselves down by 1. FaZe now moving as a unit, as a wolf pack, as they hunt the Frenchmen there, hiding round corners at the moment. 3 at top middle. TchiK's also alone over towards green. But he could be able to get a little bit of an ambush, a solo ambush as TchiK picks up one with Lqgend. All four go down, and FaZe now find themselves on the back foot.
Quadrant immediately turn their attentions to the fresh spawners over towards tower. Frosty and SnakeBite will manage to pick up 2 against the odds. But they could be about to trade it out here. TchiK's alone. TchiK needs help. It's not going to come. It's a 1-kill game in favor of FaZe.
The team shot at the moment from both of these squads is insane, as we are witnessing 2 of our top teams in this tournament duke it out tooth and nail. Ovi about to spawn, will spawn. Shroud's gone down to cover it. Frosty's able to pick it up and get away, but there's going to be several members of Quadrant all looking at him, but it looks like FaZe should be able to pick up these kills, work in tandem to now take a better lead. It's a 3-kill advantage.
Waiting for spawn. SnakeBite towards Nestbridge, getting information.
Hello?
Frosty will get one with the help of a couple of melees. TchiK's chasing kills here, down to no shields, and Frosty with the bait and switch. Renegade survives. Just to compound the misery of Quadrant, they're down by 6.
As a reminder, FaZe are best Slayer team in the league. They have the best record across all Slayer game types, and their live fire is very impressive, 12-3 across the season. So only a few times they've been at fault, and Royal 2 picking up the double kill means that now the lead extends to 6. Was temporarily 7, but Sica's able to sneak one from SnakeBite. But this heat wave could be very important now for FaZe to just try and take the lead again.
We have seen FaZe position back tower multiple times already. It looks like a vulnerable position on the face of it, but somehow they've turned the advantages in their favor time and time again. The 3rd time they've been positioned tower, the 3rd time they managed to get the kills, and now Renegade has the sniper. Is the demon about to cause some nightmares?
This is the period of play where now FaZe can really start to let rip. Sniper rifle, heat wave, map control. Quadrant have to just survive this period. They have to try and just somehow slip through and try and take a little bit of control and maybe take this sniper rifle away from Renegade as well. You don't want to play into it now, so this is where you're very unlikely going to be pushing over top middle. Green is usually a safe, covered position, but it's where you go from there. And has Renegade moved? This is the uncharted territory now. You're like, where is this player going to be? SLG does spot him out at least.
They have the information. TchiK's going to run straight into a grenade, killing spree for Renegade. 2 members go down for Quadrant. They almost have a 15-kill advantage. With how good FaZe are, that might be insurmountable.
I mean, it's very rare you would see FaZe lose from a position like this, and I think Quadrant probably know that. This is where you have to dig deep as a team. You have to stay focused. You cannot allow your heads to drop, because all you need is that one little bit of momentum swing. Maybe you're the ones who get that overshield, that sniper, the heat wave in your hands, and you can take control. But I'm seeing a lot of individual fights being taken. Lqgend might have won it, but there's the cleanup. And FaZe at this point just need to trade out 2 for 1 and they would be fine. They would still win this. Quadrant have to start playing together. They need to be getting all 4 dead whilst not dropping too many players here.
You speak about Quadrant having to dig deep. The issue is they don't have any tools, they don't have any equipment. They're going to have to use their bare hands because they continue to lose overshields and sniper rifles. And that has been the difference maker so far. Again, FaZe are back tower. Again, they invite the pressure on. This time they come unstuck, but the damage has already been done as they trade 2 for 2.
This next overshield is going to be make or break for Quadrant, you feel. SLG's able to pick up 1. Trying to work with his teammates to take down Royal 2, but the Shroud is enough cover for FaZe. We find themselves 14 kills away from taking this series. Now, they might have thought, well, FaZe fans might have thought it was going to be more comfortable, but this back tower position, this strategy that FaZe have been employing has been a frustrating one for Quadrant. Because every time they've kind of flown towards them at back tower, FaZe have been able to trade out efficiently.
I would absolutely love to see a FaZe clan heat map on this game. Because I know exactly where it's going to point. As overshield's about to pop up in 15 seconds, and as you rightfully say, Quadrant need that now more than ever. TchiK will go down, double kill for SnakeBite. 2 members of Quadrant fighting from sandbags. Lqgend peeks out towards window. Renegade will fall. And perhaps that's enough to secure the overshield. As SLG steps up, Royal 2 will get 1. Overshield has been secured, but FaZe only require 8.
Well, TchiK just put his body on the line to ensure that SLG gets this overshield. So now SLG needs to avenge his death and do some damage here to try and give Quadrant a chance of getting back into this game. But SnakeBite finds Sica. And every kill now for FaZe gets them one step closer to winning this series. A 13 kill difference. It's so rare that you would see FaZe throw this one away, and I'd be gobsmacked if we were to see it. But if anyone's going to do it, probably would be Quadrant. We've seen comebacks before from them throughout this season, but it has to start with this sniper rifle. SLG needs to lead the charge.
They have gotten 5 kills without reply.
Yeah.
As I say that, cursed it.
There's the reply. There's another one.
Double reply. They've hit send twice. Oh, SLG gets one. All out of sniper ammunition though. Perhaps that's one of the win conditions gone. As FaZe, you know how much experience they have. They're not going to see this one slip through their fingers.
This is the one where Clutch is making eyebrows towards me saying, I bet you Quadrant won't win this one. And I think he's probably right.
He loves betting on sure things, doesn't he?
There's no way FaZe will throw this one away. 3 kills now is required. Could be even less as now Royal 2 gets the kill. And FaZe, it's time for their victory lap. 2 more kills needed.
SnakeBite will go down. 1 more kill required then for FaZe to secure the series. But this one has not disappointed. 2 championship contenders trading blow for blow. But it looks as though FaZe will just get the better of them this time. As kills continue to go down against FaZe, they know they just need 1 final kill.
The overshield is coming up. A last-ditch attempt for Quadrant to try and do the unthinkable, but Renegade doesn't get the trade. 49 to 42. Hold on a second. Maybe, just maybe, there's something here for Quadrant. It's still a 1% chance, but at least they have a chance. But FaZe now know they just need to hold strong, play this one correctly, and now this 2v1 surely should be enough.
Oh, hold the phone, folks. Ooh, Royal 2 secures with that Martyrdom grenade. FaZe clan win the series. But didn't it get too close for comfort at times?
And is that a taster for things to come in this tournament and what Quadrant are capable of? They don't quite get over the finish line, but it's just pool play. There's still an entire bracket that will be played, but it looks like FaZe are likely to be the team to top this pool. And Quadrant may just have to resort to a 2nd place, which would give them a tougher bracket, or you'd at least think it would anyway, when they come into it, a tougher winners round 1.
It has to be said though, in the past, when these 2 teams match up against one another, it was usually a 3-0, a 3-1. They made a really good series of this and were moments away from taking it at multiple times.
And it's another reason why FaZe have been winners at Majors this year, is their slaying ability is just 1 step further than some of the other teams. Even though Slayer Streets went in favor of Quadrant, for any team to take both Slayers off of FaZe, it's so unlikely with how FaZe have been performing throughout this season. So Quadrant should definitely be holding their heads high of how far they just pushed FaZe, but again, that championship mentality from FaZe being demonstrated there.